Hello, my name is Lakshmi Narayan, an automobile professional working in after sales functions. Continuing our discussion on inventory management, forecasting, KPI, today I'll be discussing on warehouse, essentials of a warehouse, best storage practices, and the best practice followed in retail parts operations. Let us start. What is warehouse? Warehouse is a place where the spare parts are stored. Now, what are the activities which are carried out in a warehouse? Let us see one by one. First and foremost activity is receiving of the part which is invoiced by vendor or the manufacturer. If all details are correct, then those materials are taken inside for making the gin as well as binning the parts. The next activity is binning of parts. What exactly is means? What exactly is the meaning of binning? Keeping all the parts received in the respective bins in the rack. So racks will have many bins. Each bin will have unique number for easy identification, and each part is kept in the respective bin. Now, this bin number updation needs in system. If there is any change, or you are making any change in the bin number, or if you are changing the location of a part from one bin to another bin, the same needs updation in the system immediately. Otherwise, it will lead to confusion at a later date. Once the parts are binned in respective bins, till the time it is picked, then it is the responsibility of the warehouse team to maintain. Next activity is, once the request is received either from the workshop or customer, the requested parts are traced with the help of bin location, and then these parts are picked. And then it is issued through the counter to workshop or customer by making an entry in the system, and after that the same is invoiced. Now, when you look at the sequence of activities, it is understood that the main purpose of having a warehouse is to ensure that all the materials received, all the spare part received are stored in a proper condition, in a saleable condition till it is requested by customer or workshop. Now, if I have to do that, what are the essentials, what are the requirement for a good warehouse or an ideal warehouse? Let us see that. First and foremost, again, here is for any warehouse, it is the space, warehouse space. This space should be sufficient to accommodate all the parts which are stocked in the dealership. In addition to that, we should also have a quality racks. So the rack should meet the specification given by the manufacturer. It should be of a good quality. We have to ensure that it is installed properly. There is no buckling, there is no deformation, all fasteners are tightened, it is not sagging. All these conditions it should meet. In addition to that, as we discussed some time back, it should have, each bin in a rack should have a number. So that same number needs to be updated in the system for easy identification. As and when there is a change in the number, or as and when there is a change of location for a particular part number, this needs updation in system immediately. Otherwise, it will be difficult to trace the parts. Next is, it should have sufficient aisle space. What is aisle space? It is the space between two rows of racks for movement of people. Now, what is the minimum space required? Ideally, it is 3 feet. Otherwise, we have to follow the guidelines given by the manufacturer. If space is less, then what happens? It will restrict the movement of part, especially while carrying the material. And also, we will not be able to use any material handling equipment. When we need to move the material like bumper, shock absorber, then body panels, if glasses, especially windshield glass, rear glass and all, if space is not sufficient, we end up in damages or we struggle a lot during transportation of the material. Next is material handling equipment for easy and comfortable and safe movement of parts. Again, here what is the material handling equipment used? Again, it depends on the manufacturer and type of parts. If it is a body shop where we are warehouse where we are using all metal parts and heavy items, it probably we may use a different type of material handling equipment. If it is a general repair workshop, then we may use a different type of material handling equipment. In addition to that, the material handling equipments are also available for supporting during loading or unloading of the material. So whatever is recommended by manufacturer, it is recommended to use. Next is we should have barcode reader. If the parts are having a barcode, then it is recommended to use barcode reader. What is the advantage of barcode reader? When we scan the part number on the box, it picks up the part number and enters it in the system. What is the advantage? It avoids errors while punching the part numbers. So if you make mistake, one number here and there, then there is a possibility that wrong part is issued in the system. So to overcome that, it is always recommended to use barcode if provision is available. Next requirement is it should have sufficient lighting. So we have seen most of the warehouse people are using tube lights on continuous basis. So instead of that, if we are able to have sufficient windows or make arrangement for natural light to come in, that will be better. Next is it should have proper heat dissipation mechanism. It should have ventilators. It should have sufficient exhaust fans to extract all the hot gases which is inside the warehouse. If that is not there, then what happens? It will affect the property of rubber and plastic material which is stored inside the warehouse. I told you earlier also, I have seen mud flap which have become stiff. I have seen bumpers which have become deformed, or bumpers which are deformed so that it will not fit on the vehicle. Next is the safety. So what all this? For usage of people, you should have PPE. What are PPEs? Personal protective equipment. Which are those? Safety shoes, hand gloves, goggles, helmet, apron. Why it is required? When we are handling or when we are working or when we are handling the hazardous material, so these protective equipments help us to work safely. Next is firefighting equipment. Nowadays, in most of the modern warehouses, we can see smoke detector, sprinklers, and fire extinguishers. So that is common now. This will help us to handle the emergency situation in case of any fire. One common observation is most of the warehouses, when we look at the location of the fire extinguisher, usually it is kept inside the warehouse. So that is not recommended. Always it should be easily accessible. Always it is recommended to keep the fire extinguisher at the entrance of the warehouse. One can be kept inside. If the warehouse is big, you can have 2, 3. But if you keep it on the other side, in case of any fire incident and all, it will be very difficult to reach that place only. And also, it should not be kept in between racks, so that there are some materials kept on that. It is difficult to move and take it. So it should be easily accessible. So it is always recommended to keep at the entrance of the warehouse and also in a places where people can easily move and take. People should have undergone training also. That is also equally important. It is also recommended to have first aid kit in the warehouse so that in case of any emergency that can be treated. More than all, it demands high level of integrity of people working in the warehouse. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to control. Because as a spare part, normally outsiders are not allowed, except 3 or 4 people, whoever is working inside the spare parts, others are not coming inside, and also until unless they are involved in day-to-day activities, we don't know what is happening. Hence, it demands high level of integrity. In addition to that, it also requires material safety data sheet. What it indicates, it's a technical document which has details of materials from which the spare parts are made, especially for hazardous goods. So if it has all the information like what is to be done in case of eye contact with eye, what is to be done if it comes in contact with our skin, what is to be done if we inhale the gases coming out of that. So all this information is available. Recommendation is that please collect it from the manufacturer, or it is available online also for the materials you are handling, and ensure that the key information is typed or printed in the local language which is easily understood by the people. Keep it in the rack itself, so that will be easy for them to understand and follow the guideline. It should have smoke detectors, sprinklers, and fire extinguishers. Because in case of any fire, in case of any smoke, it should be able to detect and put it off at the earliest. In addition to that, it should also have a proper place for people to sit with good connectivity and also a network. The warehouse location in workshop should be such that it is at a equidistance from all the bays. So it should be strategically located. It should not be at one corner of the workshop, so that the movement of technician is very high and they lose sufficient time in collecting the spare parts. So these are some of the essentials of warehouse. Next, let us see what are the storage methods, recommended storage methods. First and foremost is that all the part should be kept in bins only. There should not be any part kept on the floor. All the racks should have bin number. It should be easily identifiable. And we have to ensure that all the parts are kept in respective bin locations only. And all such bin locations against the part number should be updated in system. Whenever there is a change, it should be immediately updated in system. And only one particular part is kept in each bin. That means one part number is kept per bin. It should not happen that there are the label against that one particular bin location, system reflects one part number, but when we go and physically check, there are 2-3 part numbers kept in one bin. That should not happen. So that means it should have sufficient bins to accommodate all the parts which is available in the warehouse. All the fast moving items have to be kept close to the issue counter. This will minimize the movement of people. Next is all the heavy material should be kept below knee level as a thumb rule, because there is no point in lifting all the heavy material and keeping it in the top. In case of any mishandling, if it slips, then what happens? It results in personal injuries. But in addition to that, not only that, it also asks for additional effort from the people lifting and removing. Instead, all heavy parts should be kept at the lower level. Is this? There are certain parts for which the life is fixed by the manufacturer, like 6 months from the manufacturing date, or 1 year from the manufacturing date. All such parts should be kept in one rack. There has to be a sheet which says against each part number what is the expiry date. That sheet has to be reviewed at regular interval. Recommendation is every week. Otherwise, even if the number of parts are less, at least it should be once in 15 days. Then what happens? This will help parts team to identify the parts which are closer to the expiry date, so that you will be able to use inform workshop to consume it, or that ends up, or otherwise we need to scrap those parts. That plays a very major role. Next is keeping all the parts received from the manufacturer in its original packing. It is not recommended to remove the box and keep all the parts in the racks. And the MRP label should be intact till the part is invoiced to the customer, or the old part can be kept in the boxes and showed to the customer. Removing MRP label before invoicing is not a good idea. Not writing anything on the boxes, because what happens in case of sales return, there may be objection from the manufacturer. Keeping all the rubber parts under cover. It is not directly exposed to sunlight and heat, because it becomes hard and loses its property. What is the simplest way is to put all rubber parts like mountings, drive belts in a black polythene cover and keep it in the dark area available in the warehouse. It should not be kept in such a place where it is exposed to direct sunlight and heat. Warehouse also should have PPEs, that is personal protective equipment like safety shoes, hand gloves, mask, goggles. It should have, so that whenever people are working on hazardous goods, they should use it for their own safety. And warehouse should have one identified area for keeping all defective materials. For example, wrong part received from the manufacturer, damaged part received from the manufacturer, or any defect noticed in the products. What happens? This will help you to identify the part. If it is mixed with other part, then what happens? Whoever sees the system for checking the availability, they think that the part is available and they call the customer. But only when we go near the part and check that, we realize that this is a defective part. To avoid that situation, it is recommended to identify one particular bin location and keep all the defective parts in that particular location only. So that looking at that location itself, we will come to know that we have one part but it is defective and we will not be able to issue this part to the customer. Next is, we need to identify one particular bin location for keeping all customer specific parts. What are these parts? When there is a requirement received from customer or workshop and we don't have the parts, then what happens? We place an order and deliver the vehicle if it is safe to drive. Then what happens? Once the part is received, if we mix it with along with other parts, then what happens? There is a possibility that this part may be issued to the other customer. So when this customer comes to whom we have procured the parts, that part will not be available again. We need to place an order and procure it. Instead of that, if we identify one particular bin location for keeping all such parts with customer name or service advisor name or whoever has given a request, that will be kept separately, even though we say that the particular part is not available for the next customer who is asking, but whom we have promised that part is available and it will help us to fit the or sell those parts to the customer as promised. Next is following up a particular method for binning the part, whether it is LIFO, that is last in first out, or first in last out. In this method, what we do is, in FIFO, the first material which is received in the warehouse is we pick that material first and then we sell it to the customer. The recently received part will be there in the bin. In FIFO or in the LIFO, we issue the material which is received recent. The first received material will be kept in the bin. How it is done? Either it is done by left to right or right to left or front to back. Let us see. In the left to right, what we do is, whenever we receive any fresh material, we keep all the parts on left side of the bin, and whenever we need to pick the material, we take it from right side of the bin. It could be reverse also, that we are keeping the parts in the right side of the bin and we are taking out all the whenever we are taking out parts for issuing from the left side of the bin. Other way is keeping front and back. We keep all the recently received material at the back of the bin and all the earlier parts are kept at the edge of the bin so that it is easy to pick up. Comparing these two methods, keeping or following left to right or right to left will be easy because it requires lesser effort and it is easy also. So again, it depends on the individual who is working in the warehouse. Continuing our discussion, let us understand the reasons for accumulation of dead stock. Now, what is dead stock? We have discussed in the previous session that any material lying in our inventory for considerable period. What is that considerable period is? The definition given by the manufacturer, whether it is for 1 year or 1.5 years or 2 years or 3 years. It depends on that. So that material will be in our inventory without any movement is called dead stock. Why material sits in our inventory like that? It is always a challenging and debatable topic. And the question is, who is responsible for this accumulation of dead stock in a dealership? Let us understand the reasons first, then we will come to this question. First is wrong diagnosis in the workshop. What is this wrong diagnosis? Sometimes when the problem is not clearly seen, when it's a field-based complaint, then what happens? They try to experiment or they try to replace the component and check whether the problem is rectified. Especially when problem is not seen continuously. Sometimes it comes and sometimes it doesn't come. Then what happens? To the best of their knowledge, they suspect malfunction of certain item and they replace it on the vehicle and deliver it to the customer. But when customer comes back with the same problem, then they realizes that the problem is not from the part which is replaced. Then what happens? We need to keep those parts because we will not be able to bill it to the customer. That is, if it has a movement, see, whatever reason I am discussing, if the part is a moving item and if that can be sold, then it will not sit in the inventory as non-moving. Otherwise, it comes and sits in our inventory. In that is one possibility. Second one is a wrong part number identification. What happens is when you are selecting the part number, whether it is a manual catalog or electronic catalog, we make mistake in identifying the correct part number. There are different reasons. One could be that we are there because of the high product differentiation, we will not be able to, or during in a hurry, we would have not gone to the specific feature of that particular vehicle or the VIN or chassis number. By model, we identify the part number and order it. So that may be or may not be suitable. Second one is that the vehicle, there is some modification carried out on the vehicle. Without checking that, by going by the manual, we identify the part number and give requirement to spare part for procuring it. Once we get the part and take it to the vehicle for fitment, then we realizes that the actual part is different. That is one of the reason. Again, the part will sit in our inventory if it doesn't have any other requirement. Then wrong part ordering. During the process of ordering, if person who is placing an order makes some mistakes, either he makes mistake while typing the part number, one digit interchange or one digit exchange, it will result in a wrong part receipt. So that is one of the reason. Next is wrong quantity ordering. So during, again, it's a clerical mistake. Assume that you need to place an order for 10 quantity. It can become 110 or it can be, and we have to go, it is always recommended to go through the entire list before submitting it in the system. Then excess quantity ordering. What is this excess quantity? So this is in such a situation when we need to meet our agreed target for the month. For some reason, if the business is not there and we have not fulfilled our offtake requirement for that particular month, then what happens? We try to cover it up by ordering excess quantity. Normally, the fast moving parts are ordered. So what happens? 2-3 months, if you place an order, then what happens? You end up with having an accumulated, or you end up having high stock of parts. So that way also, if there is no movement, if it is especially seasonal part, then what happens? Or you would have ordered for some campaign, assuming that if you sell that. So when the consumption doesn't go as per our expectation, portion of that procurement will sit in our inventory as dead stock material. We have to be very careful. Sometimes what happens? Insurance company, they allow us for repair of the parts, especially body parts. So what happens? Because of with an intention to deliver the customer faster, we place an order assuming that we get an approval for replacement of certain parts. But later on, insurance surveyor says that no, I cannot allow, it can be repaired. Please go ahead and repair it. In such cases, what happens again? The part will come and sit in our inventory. In case of any delay in getting the part for some reasons, there are high possibility that customer or insurance company may ask us to repair the part, or if in case of customer, if he is able to procure it from other sources and if he brings the material and hands over it us with a request to fit it on the vehicle, that time also we end up keeping that part in our inventory for a long duration. Next reason is that we get a requirement for a part which is not available in our inventory. We place an order. If the vehicle is in our workshop, we fit that part and then only deliver the vehicle. If customer is using the vehicle, then what happens? We need to call the customer for fitment. If that follow-up is not proper, if we don't follow up till the customer comes to us for the replacement of the part, or if customer has got the replacement done by alternate sources, by some other dealership or some other place, in that case also what happens? Those materials will come and sit in our inventory as dead stock. Especially color coded item, chassis specific items, we have to be very careful while ordering. If it is a normal item, if it is a regular moving item, then that should not make any difference. Otherwise, we have to be very careful. Customer, sometimes it so happens that customer will say that initially they give approval, based on that we order the parts, but later on customer refuses to replace that part, whatever different reasons. Then in such case also the part will sit in our inventory. One of the main reason is forecasting. While carrying out an analysis of the parts, if parts manager makes mistake at one stage, we get some value which is not correct. So we end up placing an order for those parts, and then that material will sit in our warehouse as dead stock. Especially in case of any change in the part number. So there was a high movement of certain part 3 months back. Later on it was modified. So because when we do the analysis, we get the recommendation for old part number. We should be able to identify the new part number in its place. And also if there was any special activity for which we had procured, are there any seasonal parts. So there was a high movement. Probably I gave you an example last time also. If it is a summer, then we will have a high movement of AC component. If it is a monsoon or pre-monsoon, we have high movement of wiper blades, wiper motor, brake, tire, all these components. So if that is not considered while placing an order, and based on that, if we place an order and we end up keeping those parts in our inventory, then special conditions like when there is a bottleneck of parts, it is a normal, it can happen to any manufacturer or any time. What happens in that time, the manufacturers start rationing the parts. There will be huge demand in the market also, because there will be temporary vacuum created. The supply will not be equal to the demand, there will be less. In such cases, what happens, people will start talking about the same part. Then in such cases, what manufacturer will do, they start rationing the product. And to overcome that, what is the general tendency? We try to place more order, because assume that by placing an order for 10 quantity, we get 5 quantity. So if you need 10 quantity, then what we do, we order 20 quantity. In that case, what happens, we get 10 quantity to cater to the immediate requirement. Later on, what happens, this type of orders will accumulate and it will sit in the back order. But once the problem is rectified, the supply becomes normal, the manufacturer will dispatch all the back order parts, and those, by the time, if they have recovered or rectified the problem, if they have brought some modified part number for that, in that case, what happens, these parts, whatever we had ordered extra, will come and sit in our inventory. These are some of the reasons for accumulation of stock. Now, when we look at the activities involved, the workshop team is responsible for proper diagnosis of the complaint, and they have to make sure that whatever parts they are ordering, it is correct. And also from the spare part side, whenever there is a requirement received for new part or high value part, it is always better to check with the workshop manager or job controller, whoever is heading the workshop operations, so that you are sure of getting those parts. Second is, when it comes to the front office team, it is their responsibility to ensure that the customer is called for whom we have procured the parts, and it is those parts are invoiced to them. Otherwise, what happens, workshop will be busy with their vehicles which are available in the workshop. Parts operation will not have any contact with the customer. So because of the poor follow-up, that part remains in the inventory. Similarly, it is the responsibility of spare parts team to identify the correct part number, do the forecasting properly, and also to understand the exact requirement of spare parts, and also give feedback to the management that what is the stock we are having, how can we optimize it to run certain schemes. So this is the responsibility of parts team. So when you look at these, it is the responsibility of entire dealer workshop team. Workshop in the sense, workshop who are people who are working on the vehicles, front office team, service advisor, CREs or PRE, whoever is calling in touch with the customer, and also the parts team. All three put together, they have to ensure that only the required parts are available in the spare parts, and we are not allowing accumulation of any parts which will result in dead stock. What happens if it is accumulated, then what we need to do? We need to either we sell it to the customer by offering discount, or we launch some incentive scheme to the front office team for marketing it. Then in both the cases, dealership end up losing the amount. Otherwise, the third option is to scrap it. Again, it is cost to the dealership. So to avoid all these things, we have to ensure that whatever parts we are placing in order, we are consuming it. Till our responsibility ends only when that material is issued or fitted on the customer vehicle and invoiced. Till the time, it is our responsibility. We all three have to work together. Let us see some of the best practices followed in retail parts operation. I am sure that when you are working in spare parts, you are also following some of these. Let us discuss one by one. First and foremost important practice is to have a regular interaction with the workshop team. Regular interaction with workshop team doesn't mean that we reply or answer their queries received when they come to the counter regarding availability or price of a part. One person from the spare parts team goes regularly to the workshop, will have a regular interaction with the team working there, whether it is technician, supervisor or job controller. What will happen? It will give first-hand information on the requirement of parts for vehicles which are undergoing repair. Then it will be easy for parts team to check the availability and to procure the parts which are not available, so that the vehicle can be repaired with a lesser time and then it is delivered to the customer. Let us take an example to understand this in detail. Vehicle reports to a workshop with a complaint of service and then some suspension noise. We are all aware what all the parts required for the servicing, because as based on the kilometer covered, we know the set of parts which are due for replacement. When it comes to the suspension noise, we don't know what exactly is the cause. So when parts team interacts with the work technician, we can always tell him to check this noise first, so that if we can check the availability of required part. If part is not available, then we will have time to procure the parts till other repairs are attended. In this case, the technician identifies and says that the noise is coming from the shock absorber. If the same shock absorber is not available, we can check where it is available and how many days it takes us to get the part. It will give an opportunity for us to inform this to the workshop and front office team, so that in case of any delay, customer is kept informed, instead of doing the same thing as a few hours before committed delivery time. Otherwise, we can also inform technician that we don't have the shock absorber. By today evening or tomorrow, I will get the shock absorber. Till the time, don't remove it. You carry out other repairs. Keep only this part pending, so that once the shock absorber is received, this can be fitted and the vehicle can be delivered. Otherwise, what happens? Technician does the servicing, then he identifies shock absorber as the culprit. He opens it and comes to the workshop team. Then we realizes that the part is not available. Then till the time the part is procured and given, the vehicle will be idle in the bay. Or if you have to remove that vehicle to attend other vehicle, again we need to fit the failed part back. So with this, what we are doing, we are wasting the manpower for removal refitment, because we can't charge it to the customer. If the part is critical, if we can't move the vehicle, last session only we have discussed what all the other costs we incur. So to overcome that, if we get an advance information, it is very good, and we can get the part and give it to the workshop. Second is interaction with finance department. This is equally important, because whenever we need to place an order, whenever we need to purchase, whether it is from the established channel of manufacturer or any external vendor, we need to ensure that sufficient fund is available in our accounts. There are many instances where order is placed on the manufacturer, but parts are not released because of fund non-availability. So to avoid all these instances, it is always recommended to have regular interaction, and everyday morning better you inform the accounts team that I align with in finance team that I am placing an order for so and so value. So do we have sufficient fund? If they say yes, we can go ahead. Otherwise, we can plan which are the parts which are urgently required, and then we will place the rest of the parts when fund is available. In case of any delay, we can also communicate to the workshop team about this, which will help to avoid any unexpected or unwanted scenarios in the evening when customer comes for delivery. Next is ordering viewer parts. So for some reason, let us say that we are not allowed to place an order, then the requirement demand comes up, then for the same part there are 5-6 vehicles waiting in the workshop, and we require our regular consumption is 25 parts a month. Then in such cases, what we can do is, instead of placing all 25 by viewer, we can place 10 quantity by viewer, so that we get the part immediately, which will cater to the vehicles which are standing, and in case if we receive another 1 or 2 vehicles also, by the time we get the balance quantity which are ordered by stock. This way we can optimize our ordering. Otherwise we end up losing we end up incurring additional cost by placing viewer order. Second recommended practice is that to place viewer order for all the parts for vehicles which are undergoing repair in workshop. We have discussed in the first session itself that what are the cascading effects if the part is not available and if we take more time to get the parts. So we are sure that when the vehicle is in workshop, we are sure that this part will move. Hence, it is always recommended to place an order by viewer and get the material. It is also a best practice to place minimum quantity of shelf life parts, because if we order more by mistake, what happens if the shelf life expires, then we need to scrap those material at our cost. It becomes cost to the dealership. Hence, it is always recommended to ensure minimum quantity ordering for shelf life item. We can increase the frequency if required, but if you are confident of the shelf life, if you are confident that whatever material I receive will have a shelf life of next 3 months or 6 months, then it is okay. Otherwise, it is recommended to place minimum. Keep one emergency stock and then you keep on ordering. The value will also be very less, instead of keeping it in stock in excess quantity and scrapping it at a later date. Next is inspecting all the materials which are received from the vendor or from the manufacturer. It is a crucial activity because we have to be sure that whatever material we receive, it is, first of all, it is without any damage. Second one is we need to check the quantity received versus what is invoiced, in addition to the part number also. If there is any mismatch immediately, or if there is any damage immediately, we should bring it to the notice of manufacturer. Without carrying out this activity, if we complete the GIN, then what happens? It sits in our stock. Then if at a later date, if we identify any discrepancy, then it becomes our responsibility. Manufacturer may not support it. Again, in such cases, again we need to take the approval of management for removing those material from our inventory. Again, it becomes cost to the dealership. There will be situations where our parts will be in back order. It is also one of the key activity to track all those parts. Then for 2-3 reasons. One is that to give update to the workshop, and so that they are also in a position to answer customer queries and help customer to plan their activity. Second is for planning your finance, because there is a high possibility that you plan some order and accordingly you deposit the fund or ensure that the fund is available. In between, if some back order parts are released, then what happens? So your current order, some of the parts will be kept on hold because of the non-availability of fund. To overcome all such situations, it is recommended to keep track of all back order parts. Or one more is, in case of any change in the dates committed because of some other issues, then again all such scenarios, it is easy for you to communicate to the workshop team on day-to-day basis. That is a good practice. Handing over invoice to the finance. This is one of the critical activity, because normally there is a possibility, because in our day-to-day what happens is we complete the inspection, we do the GIN, then we keep it with us, stating that let me hand over it by once tomorrow again I'm getting one more batch of parts, something like that. If by some mistake, if it is not handed over, then what happens? The payment will not be there or it is not accounted. There will be discrepancy in what is paid and what is invoiced. So the finance department will struggle during reconciliation. So to again, in such cases, again, we need to spend extra hours to identify or search for the documents. To overcome that and also to ensure timely payment to the vendors, it is a best practice to hand over the invoice immediately after the completion of GIN to the finance department. Next is not issuing spare parts to the workshop without making an entry in the system. It happens now. Sometimes technicians comes and ask, I want to check the part I am diagnosing, I'm not able to find the cause of failure. Can you give me this part so that I will fit and check? In such cases, what happens? We, with good faith, we hand over the material. For some reason, if we forget it and if it is not followed, our technician fails to update us. Whether it is fitted, then it has to be entered against that vehicle for billing, or if he returns that, we need to keep it in the bin. For it, there will be situations because of the work pressure that part is fitted and delivered to the customer. Next day we realizes that the part is fitted and without invoicing. Other option is that the part they keep it somewhere in the workshop, and if it is not followed up, then what happens? It remains unidentified. In both the cases, it will be lost to the dealership. To overcome this, it is always recommended to make an entry in the system before issuing the part, irrespective of situation. Tracking aging of parts. So this I discussed during forecasting also, and aging of parts plays a major role. We need to monitor constantly which age group of parts is occupying my inventory, in addition to the dead stock percentage. How do we track this? Let us assume that my monthly sales is 10 lakh rupees and I have an inventory of 10 lakh rupees. That means I'm having an inventory of 1 month. After 6 months, assume that the business is doubled. Instead of 10 lakh rupees, now business has gone up to, our revenue has gone up to 20 lakh rupees. Then how do we track? What is the inventory value we are maintaining when the business was 10 lakh rupees? Now when it has gone to 20 lakh rupees, again have we increased our inventory also to 20 lakh rupees, or we are able to maintain with 10 or 15 lakh rupees? Then it shows the efficiency of the parts management. Second one is, what is the value of dead stock? Assume that when the business was 10 lakh rupees, when the inventory was 10 lakh rupees, our dead stock value was 50,000 rupees, nothing but 5%. When the business reaches 20 lakhs, you assume that inventory also maintained at 20 lakhs. Then what is the dead stock value? If the value remains at 50,000 rupees only, that means 2.5%, then it is we have improved over a period of time. Our dead stock was 5%, but when the inventory is doubled, still we are able to maintain the same value of dead stock. That's why the percentage of dead stock has come down. Instead of that, if you say that even instead of double the business, even though the business is doubled, I am able to maintain the dead stock at same 5%, then what happens? What is the meaning? Every month, whenever we are purchasing the part, 5% of our value is sitting in our inventory as dead stock, which is not, that means there is no improvement in the process what we are following. Second one is, we need to track what is the sale versus offtake. So consider all the material which are issued. As I told you in the previous session, consider the one price. If it is a DNP, consider DNP. What is the value of parts you have invoiced from the spare parts? Against that, what is the value of parts you are purchasing month on month? So it gives a trend. If your purchase is more than the sale, that means you are accumulating stock. If your sale is more than the offtake, then your stock should come down relatively. So these are the trends which you should track and which will give you the hints that what is the quality or where we are going, in which direction we are moving in maintaining a healthy inventory. Adhering to MRP guideline, this is one of the most important point. So because we are not supposed to sell anything more than the MRP printed on the part. So when do we come in such situation? Whenever there is a price hike. So as per the law, it is recommended that it is all the parts should have MRP label on the part itself. So let's assume that 100 rupees part which was purchased 6 months back, now it has become 110. So it is recommended to sell it at 100 rupees only, because that is the amount printed on the part. We are not supposed to sell anything more than on that. So it is against our law. Scrapping of carton box I have discussed also. We have to ensure that whenever we are handing over parts to the customer, all old parts are kept in the new box, and the box of the new part, and it is shown to the customer. If customer wants to take it back, better we give it with all MRP label, everything intact. Otherwise, if he says that it is not required, then we can scrap those or dispose those material by damaging it. We have to ensure that all branded carton boxes and packaged materials are leaving our dealership in a damaged condition, so that it is not recirculated in the market with few spurious parts. Audit by external. It is I discussed the cycle counting in the beginning of this topic. In addition to that, it is also recommended or it is the best practice to have audit of parts, either whether it is a sample audit or complete audit, at least with a external party. External party could be somebody from workshop, somebody from front office, somebody from finance. So because if there something is going wrong, as a parts manager, you will come to know at the shortest possible time, and you will have an opportunity to identify the cause and then correct the system. Otherwise, what happens if these checks are not done, we realize it at the end of the year that by the time the damage will be high, and also resulting in loss to the dealership. So to overcome that, it is always recommended to have audits at regular interval. In addition to that, we need to also monitor the stock days, because we in the last session we discussed stock turnover ratio, service level and all. That is not sufficient. We need to monitor the line item wise data also, because when we say that, even though we say that we have 2 month stock or 1 month stock, when we look at the part number wise, we realize that by value it is 1 month, but when you look at line item wise, we have few line items we are in high quantity. So that is the reason we are frequently placing order by viewer. So the more we get into the data mining, we ourselves will understand where we are going right and where we are going wrong. So these practices will help us to work efficiently and to generate or to run a profitable spare parts business. So I am sure that we had good discussion in last 3 sessions. Started with what is inventory, what are the inventory evaluation methods, what is forecasting methods, KPIs, warehouse, best practices and all. And I'm sure that definitely it would have helped the people who are working in the parts department. With this, I'm coming to the end of my session. Once again, I thank the management of AR Pro to share my views on the parts management. And also, I thank each one of you for your patience listening and encouraging me to share my ideas on such topics. Till we meet next time with a new topic, I wish you all the very best. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you very much.